And we're off. This is the great classic rock debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Steve.
And our cohort, Paul, is sort of in limbo right now. We're not sure whether or not we expect him, but we're hoping he's going to join in as soon as he's available. We talk anything and everything classic rock. We try to have fun. We try to keep it interesting. If you're watching right now, please like, comment, and subscribe. We will love you for that. Now, way back when we first started the channel, one of the things we said we were going to try to always do, and this is recognizing, well, none of us are getting any younger, but a lot of the guys who really played a role in laying the foundation for what we call classic rock and what we love as classic rock. A lot of these guys are getting up in years, 70s or even 80s, and some of them aren't in great health. So I said we want to try to always give a mention and sort of pay tribute, pay homage to anybody. And if they're more significant, we can even devote an entire show to them. And if it's just somebody who was a lesser known member, we can at least mention it and talk a little bit about his contribution. And just a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Eric Carmen, and I know most people would say Eric Carmen is not a classic rock artist. I'm not going to debate that. I suppose it's a matter of opinion. I would agree that he's not, but that guy, he made a huge contribution to music just in general, period. Plus, as you mentioned before, he was the lead vocalist and lead songwriter and probably the founding member of the Raspberries. And some of their songs do get played on classic rock stations, so we can't just completely marginalize him. Anyway, getting to my point, I saw today on the news that Dickey Betts of the Allman Brothers passed away today. He was 80 years old, and he had several serious health issues. One was cancer, and another was chronic pulmonary disease or something or other. So he was 80. He wasn't in good health, so I don't think anyone is going to be shocked or stunned that he passed. However, man, it still hits me in the chest because, wow, as a kid, the Allman Brothers were from Florida, and it looks like Paul is going to join us. Yeah, let's give him a second to get in here. And Steve, I don't know if you know this or not. It's not that it's a big deal, but Dickey Betts was born in West Palm Beach, Florida. Paul, welcome aboard.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he is. Or Rodney. We'll call you Rodney, whatever you want to be called. He can't hear us, I guess. Paul, can you hear us or not? Paul. Okay, we cannot hear you, so I don't know if you're...
It may take him a moment. Usually you have to click through, sign in.
Okay.
But I just want to say...
Yeah, please do.
You just broke the news to me about 5 minutes before we got on, and I had not seen the news, and that it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I want to say my heart is broken. And not that I knew him personally, but I love the Allman Brothers. I love Dickey Betts as a guitar player, one of my probably top 5 favorite guitar players of all time.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. You know what? I'm so gratified to hear you say that, because I sort of put him into the category of phenomenal guitarists who don't really get their, when people make their list of top 5 or top 10 guitarists, you don't hear them say Dickey Betts, but that guy is great. Paul, can you hear us now? He disappeared again. Okay. So anyway, so what I'd like to start with is just a brief little backdrop to my own experience with the Allman Brothers, because I'm sure you know that it was the song Ramblin' Man in 1973 that really broke them through. All right. So here's how history kind of played out for them. They released their first album in 1969. And they were young guys. They were all in their early 20s, And during the Southern Rock show that we did a number of months back, we talked a little bit about what led up to that. These guys were all session musicians who played throughout the South. They had really honed their skills and become well known for their phenomenal abilities. And they would play any style. They would play rock, they would play R&B, blues, country, it didn't matter. They were so talented that they would get hired and they would play whatever. And that's how they first kind of got to know each other. So when they when they recorded their first album in 1969, the album sold, I think, surprisingly well. I don't even know if the record company expected it to sell as well as it did. However, it is noteworthy that these guys toured like crazy. I mean, they were playing everywhere they could. Again, young guys with lots of energy, probably doing a little drugs to keep them going. And yeah, and touring and getting their name and their songs out there. So people were going to see them and then saying, wow, they were great. And then they would go buy the record. So those things all sort of worked together to suddenly put them on the map. However, also noteworthy is their style of music was definitely not geared towards mainstream top 40 radio. Oh, yeah. Okay. Very bluesy. They were probably the first rock band to deliberately say, we're combining some of this with some of this with some of this. They wanted jazz, they wanted blues, they wanted rock, they wanted bluegrass, they wanted all these different things combined in. And if you heard somebody say that, you might make a face and go, that sounds weird. And I don't know how well that's going to work, but they made it work.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I think they're probably the quintessential Southern rock band as well.
Oh, they are.
In my view.
No doubt. Listen, that term didn't even exist before the Allman Brothers.
Yep.
And then when they started recording albums and selling records, other bands, largely from the South, heard them and said, OMG, we're going to do what those guys are doing. We'll put our own touch on it, but we're going to do it. And that's what started this big, huge Southern rock movement of the 70s. We also talked before how it didn't carry well into the 80s and 90s, but it was huge, huge in the 70s. Anyway, back to the Allmans. So I think it was that 73 album. Oh my gosh, now I don't remember the name of it. I think that was the one that had Ramblin' Man on it. And it was probably either their third or fourth album. And again, their albums were selling really good, but there was no hit singles. All right. So, and listen, I didn't really know much about them. I think I'd heard the name. I didn't know much about them until Ramblin' Man. And when I heard that song, I mean, when it was on radio, it spread like wildfire. I mean, every station was playing it. Pop stations, rock stations, probably country stations too. You heard it everywhere. It was ubiquitous. And it was so catchy. And the first thing that you think when you hear it is, oh my gosh, I love the Allman Brothers. I want to emphasize now that song was not representative of their body of work, which was bluesy and jazzy and very different than that. But that song really broke them through. And I also want to, because, you know, we're talking about Dickey Betts. Dickey Betts not only wrote the song, but he sang lead. So for anybody who says, Dickey Betts, I'm not sure who that is. Okay, he's the guy singing on Ramblin' Man, which you've heard a million times.
Yeah, I would say he probably sings on my favorite Allman Brothers songs as well, including Blue Sky, which is my favorite Allman Brothers song.
Great song, great song. Okay, yeah, great song. And as long as you're mentioning that, I'll mention too that he wrote Blue Sky. He also wrote Jessica, which is an instrumental. But if you think of those three songs together, they all have that country bluegrass influence in there. Yep. You know, you hear it right away. And I read that as a child, okay, so he was born in West Palm Beach and grew up mostly his childhood in Bradenton, Florida, which is over on the West Coast, a little south of the Tampa area.
Yep.
So, and apparently his parents were country music fans because he was hearing rock hanging out with his friends, but he was hearing a lot of country at home, and he embraced both. And again, you can clearly hear those influences in his writing. Okay. So what I did was I pulled up a list of the songs that he wrote here that I think most people would recognize. So we talked about Ramblin' Man, huge hit. Oh, by the way, it went to number 2 on the charts in 73. He wrote Jessica, wonderful instrumental. He wrote Blue Sky. And I think he wrote that he was dating a girl who was a Native American. Did you know anything about this? Paul's trying
No,
to
I
get
did not.
Paul's
No.
trying to get in again. Let's see if I can get him in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he deliberately incorporated sort of a Native American theme or whatever. Oh, he's changed computers.
Into Blue Skies. Is that the
correct? Exact. Okay. Clear Blue Sky. I think he originally titled it Clear Blue Sky, and it just changed to Blue Sky. But okay, Paul, can you hear us or not?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I don't know what went wrong before. We could never hear you.
See my settings, it will not come off that setting where it says no audio.
Oh.
It appears you need to get a Mac.
Yeah, right.
You're as bad as my wife. Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, bro, let's get it whack, bro. It solves everything.
Okay.
Let me just say, I'm not having any issues.
Well, there you go. So, Paul, just to catch you up real quick. So, as you know, I messaged earlier that Dickey Betts died today. And so we were talking a little bit of history of the Allman Brothers and especially of Dickey Betts. And he wrote 3 pretty well-known Allman Brothers songs, Ramblin' Man, Blue Sky, and Jessica, which is an instrumental. And if you listen to those 3 songs, there are certain similarities that reflect his childhood growing up with not only rock influences, but country influences. He has a little bit of that country element in those songs, by the way, I think they're all really great songs. Paul, so now that you've joined us and that you're in to stay, if you would like to say anything about that, anything about Allman Brothers or Dickey Betts, please do.
You two are much larger Allman Brother fans than I am.
Okay, did you know that he was born in West Palm Beach?
No, I did not.
Dickey Betts. Yeah, he was. And even though I couldn't find it today and I was looking for it, I read, I don't recall what it was, an article, something years ago where it mentioned that he was born in West Palm Beach, and it said he lived in the neighborhood known as Westgate. And you know, as well as I do, that's not the greatest neighborhood. That Westgate area, yeah.
That was, at one point, that was white trash, capital of the universe.
Yeah. I think it's been there for I think it's been that way.
Yeah, there's a city, Kenny, that I didn't know, but it rivals it. It's called Bithlo, Bithlo. It's an actual city.
Where is it?
It's east of Orlando on I-50.
Oh, wow.
Okay. You should have a white trash city contest to see which one would win.
It's in between the Hot Boiled Peanut Shack and the airboat tours.
Oh, okay. All right, never heard of it. Okay, so listen, I want to do something really quick here. I'm going to put Dickey Betts on hold for a second. We're going to come back to him, but I've been dying to tell you guys this next thing, and this goes back to the founding of this YouTube channel. The whole reason I started it because I was so frustrated and even appalled at what classic rock radio has become, at least my local classic rock station, which is a corporate station, which means there are classic rock stations all across the country playing the exact same music. All right. Having said that, this week, this station officially went off a cliff. Okay. I've had a feeling that this was coming. Like they've sort of been just gradually transitioning into it. But this week, all of a sudden, they've included all these songs into their playlist now, not classic rock songs. They've also apparently discontinued a lot of legitimate classic rock songs. So what I did was, sometimes I don't even know the names of them. So what I would do is I would Shazam it just so I could communicate to you guys. Okay. Do you guys know this song called Pardon Me by Incubus?
Oh yeah, I hate it, but I know it.
It was awful.
Yeah.
They played it. I heard it today. Okay. 2 Linkin Park songs that they're now playing, Somewhere I Belong and Numb. And listen, I want to emphasize this next part. Whether you like the songs or not is not important. These are not classic rock songs. Okay.
But I will say at least they are playing rock songs. So at least that's a plus.
Okay. Also, and since you're mentioning that, I'm going to add this. I know that because there is no definite, agreed upon definition of what constitutes classic rock. Everybody has their opinions, and that's fine. So for the person who says, well, if it's a rock song and it was getting some play like 20 years ago, then that makes it classic rock. So anybody who's making that argument, okay, fine. But the reason I kind of reject that argument is because there are so many of the greatest, the best classic rock songs that were never played on radio. I mean, think of all the songs by Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin, or they weren't hits. They weren't radio hits. They were not top 40 hits. They're classic rock because we bought the albums and played them and learned them and said, wow, is that song awesome? So just for me, just the fact that it got radio play 20 years ago is not grounds for making it a classic rock station. But for those making that argument, so be it. All right, now let me come back. I got a few more here, and you're going to be disgusted. All right, so we got the 2 Linkin Parks. Okay, have you guys ever heard of Days of the New, song called Touch, Feel, and Stand?
Yeah.
Okay, I never heard of them.
It was very popular in the late 97, 98.
Yeah.
Okay.
Days of when they kind of broke.
Okay, I didn't think it was a bad song, but I never heard it before. It was clearly a new addition. Okay, I've heard this one. No, this next song, I know it, but I've never heard it on the classic rock station before, and that's by The Offspring. The Kids Aren't All Right. Okay, so
they are apparently targeting a demographic that's like my age.
They have to be. And we also mentioned that because, so I'm 63 and Paul is 50. What are you, Paul? 59. Okay. We are outside of the demographic that they're targeting. So we shouldn't be surprised, I guess. But, my thing is, stop calling yourselves a classic rock station. Just say we're an oldies rock or whatever. Stop calling yourself classic. If you're not going to play classic rock songs, don't call yourself a classic rock station. Okay. Somebody Told Me by The Killers. Do you know that song?
Yeah. That's probably 15. That's a late 2010,
2004. I checked it. Yeah.
Okay. 2004.
Yes, it's 20 years. Danny California, I think that's from 2007 or something like that. That's less than 20 years old, by the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh man, I'm not a big Chili Peppers fan.
I'm not either. I'm not offended if they've grandfathered in Under the Bridge. Look, all the rock stations picked it up way back when. So even though I consider them alternative, they don't fit the mold of what classic rock is. But if they grandfathered in because of those reasons, I'm okay with that. But most of their songs I don't particularly care for. Also, there's a song called, oh my God, it's by a group called Jimmy Eat World, and the song is In the Middle.
That's a good song.
Pop. You like it?
It's very poppy, and I remember when it came out, I was embarrassed. It was like a guilty pleasure.
Okay.
And I had a friend of mine. We were both like, "Hey, I hate to admit it, but I like this song." And he's like, "Me too."
Okay, so I put it into the category of a lot of these 80s songs that the classic rock station had started playing, Tears for Fears and Simple Minds and Eddie Money. They were playing all these. They're not classic rock songs, but they're not songs that I dislike. But I think what they were doing, I think that was the beginning of the transition. Start off by playing a group of songs that people kind of like, even though they're not classic rock, and then let that lead into some 90s songs of the same thing, and then just dump a whole bunch of quote unquote rock songs in that are now officially 20 years old.
Are they still playing the classic rock songs from the 60s and 70s?
Okay, I'm going to answer you like this. Like today, I heard Tom Petty. I heard a few, but clearly, I don't know if they've eliminated a bunch, but they're playing way fewer. So it's like 1 out of every 5 songs now is what we would call a legitimate classic rock song. Anyway, it really bothers me. I don't know that I'm even going to keep listening.
Yeah. Do you have Sirius XM?
I don't. And you've talked about it and you've made it sound very desirable.
It is the greatest thing ever. and it's like depending on what plan you get, it's $10 to $15 a month, maybe even $5.
Okay.
And I got when I bought a new car 12 years ago, it
Yeah.
came with it, and I've had it ever since. And I could never, if I could only pay for one streaming service, whether it's Netflix or
Okay.
Apple TV, it would be Sirius XM. They should
Okay.
pay me as much as I promote them.
You do. And you are sincere, because I can tell when you talk about how much you really enjoy it.
I love all the, and yeah, there's so much variety on there. So you would really love it.
You go to listen to Ozzy's Boneyard, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's a station totally devoted to deep tracks, which are 60s and 70s classic rock.
And that's the best. That is the best listening right there, is the deep tracks. Because even on a regular, normal, and decent classic rock station, there's still that thing where you kind of get flogged hearing the same songs over and over.
Oh, yeah.
And the deep cuts never do that. They always surprise you. So, okay, let's shift back to Dickey Betts. All right, so in the late 70s, the Allman Brothers had a song called Crazy Love. Do you guys remember that one at all?
No.
The album was called Enlightened Rogues, Rogues. And I thought it was an okay song, but even though it did fairly well on the radio charts, I've never really thought of it as one of my favorite Allman Brothers songs. But Dickey Betts wrote it, so that's why I'm giving it a mention. Okay, in the early 80s, like 80, 81, 82, they changed labels and they went to Arista Records. Arista Records, who's run by Clive Davis, okay? And one of his, I mean, you can love him or you can hate him, it doesn't matter to me, but one of his things is he is able to take artists who do not necessarily have a radio-friendly style and give them a much more accessible sound. So the Allman Brothers had a song during that time on Arista Records called, I think it was called, Jesus, now I can't remember it. Straight from the Heart. Straight from the Heart. A lot of the old school Allman fans hated it because they said it's too commercialized or whatever. But I got to tell you, I like the song. It's catchy and it's sing along, not in the same way that Ramblin' Man was, but still. So I thought it was a pretty good song. Dickey Betts wrote that. So I'm mentioning it. Now, I'm going to jump all the way to the end of the 80s. In 1990, the Allman Brothers released a new album, which by that point, it had been 20, 21 years since their first album. And the album was called Seven Turns. Seven Turns. Do you guys remember anything about that?
Zero.
No.
Okay. Okay. The album didn't sell real big. I would call the material on there pretty much in line with their traditional sound. They weren't breaking any new barriers or whatever. Bluesy rock with a lot of variety and a lot of influences in there. But the self-titled single, Seven Turns, okay? When we finish the show tonight, fellas, I'm going to encourage you both to go to YouTube and pull up that song, Seven Turns, by the Allman Brothers, okay? Dickey Betts wrote it. He sings on it. This has almost like an early 70s Eagles kind of like that laid back West Coast kind of style to it. And it's just oh my God, it's just a beautiful song. It really is. Once again, there are some clear, what I would call clear Native American influences in there. So he really embraces that kind of thing. But it's a beautiful song, and in my opinion, should have been a big hit. It wasn't, but should have been. So I'll be looking forward to hearing you guys' opinions.
And you said that was 1990, you said?
1990, yeah. The album was released, and the lead single was called Seven Turns, the title track. And I thought it was just a really good song.
Well, the problem is they weren't called Nirvana, and no one's going to listen to it or put it on the air, period.
Yeah. Well, in 1990, Nirvana was still a couple years away, or maybe a year away, whatever. But the entire rock scene, the rock universe was just packed and overflowing with hair bands at that point in time.
It was
really
all revolved around cherry pie.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Well,
it's true.
But when did Use Your Illusion come out?
91.
91. Tail end of 91.
Yeah, September of 91.
Because they released.
I remember the day it released.
Yes.
Civil War early. I know that.
Also the one from Terminator, and there was a couple that were released early, but
Civil War was the B-side on the cassette single to You Could Be Mine. So which came out in the summer of 90.
There you go.
So
there you go. There you go. So anyway, with the hair bands, and then like you said, Nirvana only a year away, the Allman Brothers just got swallowed up in a tidal wave of other stuff. And the album didn't sell real well, but I thought it was decent, but especially that title track. So I want you guys to check it out. Okay, fast forward 4 years, 1994. I've made numerous references to the fact that this record somehow got overlooked, and it is criminal. Okay, the name of the album was Back Where It All Began, and there were two wonderful songs. Back Where It All Begins was the one of the tracks, and the other one was called No One to Run With. That's the one that was written by Dickey Betts. Okay. Oh, 3?
There's a third one, Soul Shine.
Oh, correct. You know what? You've mentioned that before, Stephen. I forgot to mention it. You are correct, and that is a good song. I want to emphasize this song, No One to Run With, because it's, oh my God, it's part of the seasons of life, I guess. Think about the rock bands that start out in their youth, in their 20s. Their songs are about partying and chicks and drinking, and it's the things that we all did when we were that age, and that's why we relate so well to those kind of songs when we're that age, because it's like these guys are singing to us, right? And so by 1990, the members of the Allman Brothers were probably all, I'm going to say, late 40s by that time. Okay.
Yep. Oh, way over, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe let's just say they were all about 20 in 1969, 79, 89. Okay, so they're in their, let's just say mid 40s. Okay, give or take. So Dickey Betts writes this song called No One to Run With. All right. Oh my God. Once again, if you don't know this song, you have to play it and listen to the lyrics. Here he is, mid 40s. He's still single. Okay. Most of his crew, guys who he grew up with, partied with, played with in the band, whatever, these guys are married with kids by now, and they can't go out running around drinking and being rowdy and whatever.
Picking up chicks, yeah.
Exactly. So he writes a song, No One to Run With, and that's what the song is about. And it's impossible to not listen to it and just sort of be amused at that. Like, yeah, like at whatever age, I mean, Paul, you and I both waited late, to get married. At whatever age you realize, geez, there's nobody who's available. I want to call up a group of friends and no one's available anymore. Everybody's tied down and whatever, So again, when you're that age, it really resonates. And I just thought it was a great song.
Well, I think I told you, I saw this Dave Mustaine of Megadeth went to a recording one day, and he pulled up in this $130,000 Mercedes, walks out, they got a camera crew in him. He walks to the back of the car with a key, pops up with the trunk, is a guitar case, the whole trunk. And he pulls the guitar out like it's Excalibur, goes through the shoot, walks back in the car, and you're like, oh yeah, this guy's real hardcore edge now, It's just like these guys got so much money.
Right.
It's like, it's hard to make this, I don't know how the Stones do it. I just don't know how they do it.
Right. No, I agree. Okay, so listen, we got our warning. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Rather than naming a song tonight, which you can do if you want, But if you have any sort of a moment, just at any time in your life when a particular Allman Brothers song or a Dickey Betts song, whatever, you heard it and it stopped you or whatever, let's just sort of do it like that. Paul, I already told Steve the story of how in 1973, and I was 12, Ramblin' Man, it just burst suddenly onto radio, and it was everywhere. And that song was getting so much airplay, and anytime you were near a radio, you were going to hear it. And virtually everybody liked it. And nobody was going, that's country, I don't like that. Nope. Everybody liked it. And that was my first introduction to the Allman Brothers. I didn't know anything about them at the time. I just knew that I liked them, and I thought it was catchy and it was easy to sing along to. So that's kind of how I got started. I've also told how they had to grow on me over time because of the complexity of their music. It's not easy to digest right away. But I love them now. But anyway, that was the whole start. Ramblin' Man. Okay, go ahead.
Steve, go ahead.
So summer of '96, I spent most of that time trying to learn Blue Sky, especially the solo on guitar. So I learned about half of it, but it's so complex, and there's so many great runs and so many cool licks, and just the tone of that song. And Paul, you may not know this, but he plays a Les Paul, so that was one of the other things that it really attracted me to it. And just his tone, just the sound he got from that. It was like God's voice speaking to me, and I'm really saddened by the news of his passing, and I will forever remember that song.
Yeah.
And then, as another quick side note, my girlfriend in high school, her mom was for years she said that she was friends with I think it was ended up being a roadie of the Allman Brothers, and I kind of didn't believe her. Then they came to town, and I had broken up with my girlfriend at that point. But there on the side of the stage, I saw my girlfriend's mom. So
wow.
she was obviously
she was telling the truth
with somebody in the band. So
wow. Hey, Steve, since you mentioned Dickey Betts and his guitar playing, let me just throw this in really quick. I saw a video a few years back on YouTube, and it's Dickey Betts and Greg Allman together. I think they might have been on a TV show. It was just the two of them, and they're doing Melissa. And of course, Greg Allman is singing, and Dickey Betts is playing the guitar. I encourage anybody and everybody to look for that. I should pull it up, find it, but just watch and listen to his guitar playing. Oh my God! It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It really is. Anyway, Paul.
My only Allman Brothers story is I dated a girl in Atlanta. Her sister was a nurse at this ward, and Greg Allman was going through rehab. And so he was really belligerent to a lot of people. Finally, there was a big black orderly there, and he said something. He goes, the black guy just called me and said, "Don't you ever raise your voice to me again, or I'm going to punch you in the face." And he goes, Greg Allman just shut his mouth and did what he was told, because that black guy was going to kick his ass, and he made it clear. And she was telling all this just the next day, and we're all howling because he thinks he can get away with murder, right? And
right.
Even if plus he's probably pissy because he's going through detox, and this black guy's like, "I ain't having that crap."
Right.
So now he was married to Cher, right?
Correct.
And they got
I got to tell you, maybe at the time that didn't sound crazy or weird, but when I think about it now, like, oh my God, how did that happen?
Yeah. I also want to add, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the Allman Betts band, which is comprised of the sons of Dickey Betts and the Allman Brothers, they've released a couple of records, and they have a very similar sound of the Allman Brothers. So if you like that, I mean, it's a classic rock sound. So
definitely.
If you like that, I would encourage audience to check it out.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, guys, any closing comments?
Yeah, I saw One Love today, Bob Marley movie. I give it 2 thumbs up. It is tremendous. I love it.
Really?
Yes. It's
okay,
worth watching.
I got to tell you, the reviews were not so kind.
It's a little slow. I enjoyed it because I'm a big fan of his music.
Same here.
It's a little slow, but it left out a lot of his early part, and they tell a little bit in flashback. But I give it a thumbs up. I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
If you're a music fan, you will enjoy it.
I think he's great.
Yeah, which I know you are. So
okay, yeah. All right, there you go. Okay, well, listen, let's go ahead and wrap it up then for this week, and we'll move on to something new and different and fun next week. But for now, this is the Great Classic Rock Debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul.
And I'm Steve.
And we forgot what I was going to say. If you're watching, please like, comment, and subscribe. We will love you for that. Until we meet again, we'll see you next time.